with this, we move on to the first panel discussion of the day, which is role of pet food brands in developing markets. So, to shed insights on this topic, we have some industry mavericks who have redefined this aspect of the industry. So, I would like to call upon stage the moderator for today's session, Mr. Ipshit Bhattacharya. So, Mr. Ipshit is a banker turned entrepreneur. He is a food technologist and management graduate from the prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. He has been introducing novel propositions in the pet food space for almost 3 years now under his brand Luvin. So, thank you for joining us. I would like to call upon stage Mr. Satinder Singh, General Manager of Royal Canin. Satinder Singh has over 2 decades of experience in the consumer goods industry with expertise in P&L accountability, business management, and sales. He has held leadership roles at Mars Petcare, Frito-Lay, Tropicana, and Wrigley's, known for driving business transformations and building talent pipelines. Satinder's leadership has made Royal Canin a leading pet food company in India. Thank you for joining us, sir. I would like to call Mr. Varun Sharma, co-founder of GMB Commodities. Varun Sharma holds an MBA from the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade with prior experience at organizations like GMB. He brings expertise in brand management, trade, and marketing to the pet care industry. An avid pet lover and parent, Mr. Varun is dedicated to revolutionizing India's premium pet care sector through innovation and passion. Lastly, we would like to welcome Mr. Rakesh, Mohan, Executive Director of Stakeholder. He has been instrumental in leading the company's companion health business after joining in 2011. He forged key partnerships with global firms and expanded the company's reach. In 2018, he founded Possum Companions Private Limited to launch innovative healthcare products under Forever brand to set his global debut in 2024 to 2025. So thank you for joining us. I would request the moderator to take over. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, and thank you everybody for joining us. And thank you, Linda ma'am, for setting the stage so beautifully every time. Also, thank you to the PID team for allowing us the opportunity to have this session and present our views. Thank you, all of you gentlemen, for joining on this session today. I find it curious, that pet food industry experts be called upon to discuss that how can we increase the industry further, right? Every time we have this discussion that the industry is so big and it is growing and we are all doing so much, but maybe, there is something that we are not doing, right? So I would rather want this discussion to be like a first principles kind of discussion, right? Where we take on that, what is it that we are fundamentally doing maybe wrong or we need to do better, okay? Towards increasing the entire gamut of the industry, right? We still have, say, 90% pet parents who do not give, commercial pet food. The calorific conversion rates are where they are. The household penetration is where it is. Right? So, what can we do, otherwise to make pet parenting easier in India? What kind of steps should we be taking? What kind of products, right? Different price points. Because what is our understanding of the customer's, price point? How should we promote better, educate better? What other alternative channels are coming up which we can utilize better to create, a larger impetus of this industry? Your opening remarks.
Thank you so much, Ishpit. I think I'll pick from Miss Linda that the narrative of the industry is a little weak, and we have seen a kind of example that some of the breeds are banned, and it's such a pity thing that it has a bad impact on industry. I think we need to take a step back, and we need to ask ourselves a reason that why we are here, and what is the reason for us to be here. I think the core reason for us is pets. Pets brings so much of unconditional love to us, and our sole purpose of being associated with this industry is to make a better life for pet. Uh, that's the first fundamental starting point. And I think if we want to do that, the second most important stakeholder is pet parent. And I think the way governments track or the economists track the ease of doing business, I was having a quick chat in the, just a passing remark with Ipshit in the morning that we should look at ease of having a pet in India, or if we can have a relative scale for all the countries, that what is the ease of having a pet. In India, the ease of having a pet is very low. It's not easy to have a pet. The infrastructure is not there. Just start with a journey of a pet parent, that if you want to have a pet, you don't have a accessible information that how to acquire a pet, where to get a good pet. Then starting with veterinary services, grooming, walking, as basic as a walking aisle near the societies. And there are so many restrictions within the society and outside the society, and there are pet lovers, pet haters, and all that stuff. So I think the entire industry has to be not in love with solution, but in love with the pain point, in love with the problem. And the problem is that today it's not easy to be a pet parent. And how do we make the positive impact in the health of cats and dogs? And how do we make the life of a pet parent easy? I think it starts with that genesis, and the opportunities are immense if we start, kind of pinpointing that what are all the pain points and how each one of us can solve some of these pain points.
So Rakesh ji, you have been in the industry also for long, right? For more than a decade now, So what are the key pain points that you see of the pet parents, and how would you like to add to what Satinder ji just said?
Right. So thank you so much, Ipshit, and all the organizers for having me share this stage with such fine luminaries and distinguished guests from the industry. I'm Rakesh, Mohan, Executive Director for Scientific Remedies. And so I think similar to what Satinder said, we say that the pet industry is not very regulated, but at the same time, a lot of regulations complicate the entire industry. Like, for example, a few years ago, there was a regulation that prohibited a lot of pet shops and traders to sell puppies in certain spaces and places, which again caused a lot of apprehensions and anxiety amongst those puppy sellers, which caused them to shut shop and stop selling puppies. What that led to was having more, let's say, unorganized players selling puppies discreetly online at even far lower rates, and causing poor customer experiences or pet owner experiences, because a lot of these breeds were probably puppies were not probably well bred, causing people to have owning or adopting puppies that would have health complications in the future, causing them to have poor pet ownership experiences. And that lays a foundation for people to be disenchanted with having puppy and spreading the word negatively about pet ownership. That is one. The second regulation that Linda ma'am spoke about, about the breeds, several breeds getting banned. And India traditionally has been, or at least had been, a very large breed population, and most of the large breeds that were popular in India all of a sudden were banned or prohibited because of being perceived to be ferocious. And the other regulation that I would like to highlight is the complications that came about in importing breeds or importing dogs into the country. I remember there were breeders with such passion for buying and breeding the best quality of dogs and breeds in India. And that led them to invest heavily in the best, let's say, quality of pet food, best quality of products, to ensure that the best possible puppy and the breeds could come out. And that also caused pet owners to, let's say, be willing to buy puppies at a higher premium, at a better price, just to ensure that they got well-bred puppies. Post-COVID pandemic, with the compounded complications with all the regulations that I just spoke about, I think there was this boom in the unorganized sector within the puppy selling, which, like I said, caused a lot of poor experiences, and that has been one of the reasons why I feel there is a certain disenchantment with pet ownership in India today. So this is what I would consider as some of the reasons why, let's say, there is a certain disenchantment in people who are wanting to buy new pets, as well as people who are owning pets to invest as much as is probably required to keep them healthy. Thank you.
Yeah, I think great answers. I will try to follow up with what my thesis is, and we'll go back to first principles, right? What Satinder basically said was, how do we ensure that, let's say we consider the population of this hotel, right? How do we ensure that it is easier for that population who is aspirational, who wants to own a pet, a dog or a cat? How do we ensure that it is easier for them, just to increase the pie, right? I would take another step in that direction and say the people who already have dogs and cats, but are not, let's say, using pet products right now. Now, practically, again, as an entrepreneur, there are two ways to do it. One is education, obviously, right? Where we say you are feeding, we were talking, right? Somebody is feeding chicken and rice. How do we reach him? We reach him by saying, based on our research, our knowledge, our recommendation, the trust that we have on our products, can we start by selling him a topper? Can we do that? Can we do 2 meals a week? If you go and tell that pet parent that what he or she is doing is wrong, even if you are a veterinary doctor, there is a significant backlash which follows. Our aim has always been, you are a pet parent, rooted in the fact that I want to make your life and your pet's life better. These are what our recommendation is, which is not very far away from what you are doing right now. Can we, so in industries, revolutions seldom happen, and it is really not good for anybody. Evolutions do. And evolution, by definition, is a step-by-step process. So if we can go ahead and say, we were talking about these, these kibble versus fresh. Again, wipe the board off and say, format of food doesn't really matter. How the food looks and feel like. What are the bases? The basis is A, B, and C, depending on the brand, depending upon what your message is. And can we convince another 10% of the existing pet parent to say, this is what is going to make your life better or more convenient in urban spaces. This is what is going to make the life of your pet better, even if it is by 5%. I think we have a great growth path, even if we do that. So I think that has always been a perspective, and I'll kind of go a little tangential, right? Tomorrow, guys, we are having a symposium. Please visit it. We are calling some of the best groomers in the world, and we are trying to teach people how to groom, right? Why? This is again a way of telling people this is a better way to raise a dog. This is a better way that your pet parenting becomes more convenient when you do X, Y, Z. And you leave it at that, and the category will grow, and we will grow based on the fact that we are genuinely making the life of that dog and cat better, that we are genuinely making pet parenting, as Satinder said, more convenient, right? So I think that is how I would approach the problem when you said that how do we grow the market, a little more granular, and then say, if this is a pet parent, how exactly do I push him forward by perhaps 5%? And I think my work as an entrepreneur is done.
I'm quite surprised at the variety of ideas, all of you, came up with. I would like to pick up actually from where Rakesh, you mentioned that if we look at how the industry grew in the past or how any industry has grown in the past, is that we need to put a structure to the problem. And somewhere, breeders or, promoting structured and organized breeding has helped this industry get a proper shape and also create a demand for value-added products, right? Otherwise, it was, the dog was still very accommodative and, towards our home food, right? Though if that is right or wrong, that the breeders and the veterinarians have to tell them. So as, let's say, industry leaders and participants, right? What do you think we need to do more to address the needs and the concerns of the breeders? How do we ensure that breeding happens more properly? Even if, let's say, they are Indian breeds, it need not be foreign breeds only, right? But if we are putting a structure to the problem, then we will be able to address it better. And breeding somehow helps us define what are the problems that a certain breed or a certain animal, right, requires, right? At what stage, and hence, what should the solution be? Would you want to add a little more to that, please?
Sure. So, like I said, in all humility, I would like to say that, a professional breeder would be best adept to answer this question. But to my limited knowledge and experience, I'll try to answer that. So, in my understanding and opinion, I feel that a breeder would invest more on his, let's say, dogs and his the breeds, if he feels that he's going to get more bang for his buck, when he sells his puppy in the future. Now, again, to the extent that I understand, most of the world-renowned breed lines for most of the breeds are not, unfortunately, let's say, grown in India. So from a breeder perspective, he is likely to get a higher premium for his puppy if the puppy belongs to a progeny or a line which is, let's say, renowned internationally, which is why I feel that the regulation for banning imports has had an important role to play in that aspect. Coming to what role or contribution we can play, of course, like most of us are doing, most of us on this table are doing, trying to get the best quality of food, best quality of products for pets that really transform their lives and enhance the quality of their life. That is very important for a breeder because, one of the key aspects for a breeder would be the health of the mother dog, that is the pregnant bitch, as well as the litter. And ensuring that you provide high quality, complete nutrition, good quality of products at that stage itself will ensure that you have low mortality rate, healthy puppies when the puppies are born. And healthy puppies will eventually cause the puppies to be sold at a better rate because it will look active, it will look agile, it will basically give a better pet ownership experience. So, so that is what I feel, in terms of all of us here, as well as many of us in the stage. I think the responsibility is to the best extent possible, sell the best quality of food, complete and balanced, that will improve the quality of life of the pets.
There is one piece missing here, right? We are just saying that to breeders that you are on your own, right? You understand what breeding is. Our objective is to provide you factor inputs, so you are able to improve the quality and quantity of production and all that, right? We are we've seen in the past 3 to 4 years so many breeders moving away from the business also,
Yes.
right? And many of them, and they are not supposed to, be understanding how should business be done. I hope I am anyways loud. So, so they are not, supposed to be knowing how the business is supposed to be done, right? Many of them also do not know the best practices of breeding, right? They are also on their own learning curve. If we are on our learning curves, we should allow them that room and opportunity to be. for us to think as the pet food industry that the breeder segment growth is vital for the overall industry's growth, right? What measures and do you think pet food industry and participants should take to enable this segment better? Right? Would you like to add a little?
Sure,
And
sure,
maybe
sure.
Satinder sir, you can also add to
Sure.
that.
So, again, as members of the pet industry in this dais, I think, pet food industry in this dais, I think the most important role that we can play is educate and, highlight the importance of optimum nutrition to pets for breeders at the time of breeding. And, especially when we used to have, when we used to distribute hills, we have had, conducted several breeder meets where we have educated all the breeders about the importance of ensuring proper body condition score in all the trimesters of for the pregnant bitch as well as the male dogs, and how ensuring that a proper body condition score, a fit pet can also have influence on things such as fertility, how inclusion of specific nutrients such as EPA, DHA, antioxidants can have influence on memory, improved memory, improved immune system, improved vaccination response. So, as members of the pet food industry, our most important and critical role would be to highlight how nutrition plays a vital role in ensuring healthy breeding practices and lower mortality rate, healthy puppies. So that is what I would feel.
Definitely. See, breeders are very fundamental part of the entire ecosystem, but I look at this as an ecosystem. So breeder is one part of it. Then veterinarians are extremely critical part of this ecosystem, and all the product manufacturers, groomers, everybody. I think again I stay at the pet parent journey, and all those people who are touching the pet parents, if they understand a very fundamental piece that whatever they are doing, if it is not creating a visible positive impact on the quality of life of pet, visible impact, then the perception or the perceived value of that is nothing. So the pet owner, pet parent will have all the legitimate right to go back to what they are doing, right? And same is the case with breeder also. So, so anybody who is investing on something, a product or a practice, a result, and if the result is not there, we cannot expect the behavior change. And I think the most fundamental part for me or for all the brands and product manufacturing and, the practitioners, create that impact, and show that impact, show the visible impact. Just don't take the share of the pie, but, ensure that the game is little elevated, and whatever we are doing, whether it's product or service, the pet owner, pet parent need to see the positive impact on the health, quality, and the span of life of a pet.
If we are not able to, demonstrate the benefit to the customer, then there is no reason for the customer to, wanting to spend, right? Which also brings me to the point that Varun, you made. You said that how do we get people started? People who are, let's say, not giving commercial pet food, right? Can we get started, have them started at some point, maybe with a topper or maybe with a supplement or something like that, right? The fact, though, always is that nobody ever sold a product, nobody ever bought a product, right? We sell our conviction, or like he said, the evidence, right? And whosoever is buying buys the solution, right? So then, what is important for us to understand is what is the solution that the customer is seeking, right? And how should we understand his understanding of the solution, right? So, for example, let's say if there is a pet parent his objective is that, you know, a dog is doing good or a cat is doing good for 10 years, 12 years, you know, by just having chicken and rice, right? So maybe his understanding of the solution required is a little different. So how do we understand the solution that he is seeking better and help him gain better understanding of the solution that is actually required, right? Second part is that how do we arrive at, you know, the price point at which he or she is seeking the solution, right? If like we were discussing in the morning that, you know, somebody who is feeding, let's say, boneless chicken, boiled boneless chicken to the dog, he thinks, I am God at 350 rupees a kg, you know, this is the best that I can possibly do, right? Or, you know, or let's say in terms of price point, you know, if they are, how are they comparing it, right? How are they arriving at that? How much are we willing to spend for what, right? So how would you approach it? What should be our understanding of the solution being sought by the customer?
If I'll cover the first part, the breeder part that we were discussing, and then come to how exactly do you suggest solutions which offer the right value to the stakeholder. Right? That is essentially what the question is. For the breeders part, I think step one, and I'm sure you guys will agree, is I think we should, step one should be stop demonizing the whole industry. Right? That is the problem. That is genuinely a problem. Whenever you demonize a community or a whole set of people, it doesn't get stopped. It just goes underground, and it is worse. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is worse for the dogs than cats at the end of the day. Right? We need ethical breeders. We have been with dogs at least for last 15,000 years. But day one, we were breeding them. Right? We were selectively breeding dogs. That is how dogs were created from wolves. So I don't think it is anything wrong. Ethical breeding is required. Ethical breeding will only happen once you stop demonizing the whole community. Right? That is absolutely step one. Then, you know, the second part also, see, how many breeders are there in this room? See, you understand the problem, right? There is a problem. Are they not? We agree with the fact that they are part of the industry, but they are not in the room. We are not having a conversation with them. That can be an easy step two for us to kind of cover, right? Those are the 2 points. Now, in terms of value, right? See, this is something that a lot of people, and you know, and there are several versions to this question. People say, I have been feeding vegetarian food to my dog, and my dog lived for X number of years. I've been feeding home food for my dog and my dog. See, my grandfather smoked all his life, right? And he died at 90 is not a case in favor. And then, see, again, I'm being a little, you know, little dismissive. I don't want to do that. But then my intention here is that we have to be objective with facts, right? Where we are saying the scientific evidence shows that chicken and rice genuinely does not have the right amino acid profile that is needed for a dog to thrive, right? How, again, I'll go back to my first answer. How do you do that? You perhaps, again, if you really want to change, the behavior needs to be evolved. It's you know what, this is what is missing. Perhaps 3 meals in a week of a good quality food will cover the base. I am telling you guys, you will have much more success in converting that customer or a pet parent than saying that what you're doing is wrong. It never goes down well, right? Somebody comes to us and says, hey, we are feeding raw. Great, like amazing.
We have been feeding wrong ourselves.
Which is great, right? And again, that is also a factor of how Indian society is, right? That we like home-cooked meals. We feed raw. And my answer to that almost never is that you were wrong. And it is not wrong, right? It has, like with every format of food, it has got its advantages and it has got its downsides. If you have the resources, the time, the energy, the expertise to balance the downsides with the upsides, that is a great. I mean, go to our website, go to Origin's website, Akana's website, copy the recipe. And if you can do it raw, great. You know, you should do it. Or perhaps if you are not able to do that, perhaps a limited number of meals a week might kind of cover your bases at least while you keep on feeding whatever your original philosophy was. I think that is the correct way of suggesting a solution, where we begin by saying that this is an objective fact, this is a scientifically demonstrable fact, and this is how perhaps you solve it, not 100%, not revolutionary, but evolutionary in terms of this is how we do it. When, and again, see, we sell the most expensive, at least dry food in India, right? And we have been doing it quite successfully. When we are talking about how do we price it, right? What value do we put? See, there are usually 4 stakeholders as we see it, right? Whenever we are adding a new brand, whenever see how will be the product market fit would be, there are 4 stakeholders, right? The first and the most important one is the dog and cat, right? If you are not doing right by them, there is something wrong with your business, right? That is the first stakeholder. The second stakeholder is the pet parent, right? The one with the money in the hand, right? Unfortunately, I would like to, I was in Bangalore doing a D2C conference and they say, how do you communicate to the customer? I said, I wish I could, right? I cannot, I cannot. It is unfortunate that I have a middleman in between, which is the pet parent. I don't like talking to it. I would want to have a conversation with the dog, and the dog will never tell me that he needs vegetarian food again. So, and the third stakeholder obviously is the retailer, right? The channel, whatever that channel that you would want to, whether it is online, offline, whatever. Can somebody tell me who is the fourth stakeholder, equally important? I would kind of keep it in charge. See, for me, it is my team, my sales team. Because if they are not convinced, if they are not convinced enough to sell their conviction, then the brand doesn't really work.
Not just the team, but the channel itself.
Yeah. So channel is one which is external. For me, the team, the sales team, the marketing team that is on the ground needs to be convinced with the product, and then we kind of go ahead and sell it, right? At the end of the day, that is what we are doing. We are selling a conviction. So whenever we are talking about what value, what pricing do you keep a product, you basically have to keep all these 4 stakeholders reasonably happy. And depending upon your brand, depending upon your product, it might be that you are more focused towards, let's say, veterinary doctors than some other parts of the equation. But all the 4 kind of needs to work together to then arrive at the right value where you can actually pitch your product, you can actually sell your product at volume.
Rakesh ji, every market has its own nuances, right? And India is a little atypical in the way that our kitchens operate at least 2 to 3 times a day, right? So we have a preference towards fresh food or freshly cooked food, over processed food. Secondly, the kind of ingredients, right? We have been a huge ingredient market, because of why we were a colonized country for so long, right? And this also, somehow, if you see over the past few years, the claims in the human food, are sort of also starting to reflect in the pet food, right? Because like he said, the dog or the cat are not going to buy for themselves. It is human who is buying, and he or she, brings on their own understanding and their own perspective of what they want to, right? An Indian customer is more inclined to also lean towards, organic ingredients and Ayurvedic ingredients, and a large part of India is also vegetarian, right? So do you think that, like in many industries, it so happened, even let's say when a KFC, McD, came to India, there was a certain degree of Indianization of the product. Do you think we are about to see some degree of that in the pet food industry in India? And if so, in what direction?
Thank you, Ipshit. So, like I said, see, there is going to be a high tendency for customers and consumers in India to catch on trends in the pet food market, in the pet healthcare market, in the pet category general, according to, let's say, what happens globally in the West. Previously, this time used to be much larger. Now in this digital age, it is like a matter of few months or even few days, I would say. So there is no doubt about it that all the trends that we see globally will at some point of time or the other be visible in India as well. So I mean to answer your question, yes, that is definitely going to happen. But As members of the pet food industry, what is our core responsibility? If you ask me, our core responsibility is to provide complete and balanced nutrition. Whether you do that at 200 rupees per kilo or whether you do that at 1000 rupees per kilo. As long as you are giving complete and balanced nutrition, you are at least, at the very least, giving everything at the adequate amount that the pet needs. Of course, the quality, the bioavailability, all of those things will vary. But as members of the pet food industry, I think our fundamental responsibility is to provide complete and balanced nutrition. Now, the next question would be, does fresh food provide that? A lot of companies that are packaging fresh food, I would like to believe that they are making an effort to make complete and balanced nutrition by understanding the ingredients and everything.
No clinical evidence.
Yes, with no clean, that I agree. So that is, but I'm talking about their effort and intention. They may be doing that. Does raw food do that? Rarely so, right? So, but as a trend, will it catch up? It is quite possible. If there is a good player in the raw food industry who can, package their products, give it shelf stability, have wide distribution, it is quite possible that that player can create a trend in India as well. So, but then again, in the interest of the pet parent, in the interest of, who is the final consumer, as a member of the pet food industry, my concern would be, are we promoting products that are complete and balanced nutrition? So, you spoke about vegetarian food and vegan food again. So, and veganism is a trend that is emerging globally, right? And in the West as well. So, but then the question is, does it provide complete and balanced nutrition? A lot of vegan foods do. So as long as it does provide complete and balanced nutrition to the dog, I, as a member of the pet food industry, I think we are doing an honorable job.
Satinder sir, all of us, sitting in this hall have an opinion and understanding of the pet food, to whatever degree, okay? But the consumer out there, right, might not have the same understanding, right? We are still just scratching the surface of their understanding of what pet food should be and what pet parenting should be, right? But if you look at, how historically we have done promotions in this industry, right? Our promotions have been inclined more towards, ATL, BTL spends and trying to educate and incentivize the channel, to penetrate better, right? But then at the same time, if there is no direct to consumer education and promotion, right, the channel also gets stuck, right? And then we see various kind of malpractices that, we all complain about, right? So how, what is, your organization is the market leader right now, right? So what is your marketing mix and what percentage of, let's say, your total mix, right, are you thinking of incrementally allocating towards directly educating the customer? In what forms, what kind of campaigns? If, let's say, like you said, clinical evidence has to be put forward, right? So how do we do that, right? Is it merely in terms of the certifications, right? How and what kind of educational programs, or even through, traditional commercial marketing, right, should we be doing so that the customer is able to understand the grain?
I think it's a very powerful question. Hello, yeah. So, here we start with pet, and that, remains for us, the first value is cats and dogs first, and it remains at the center. But when it comes to marketing mix and everything, we focus on the pain points. That what are the critical moments of health? As Varun said, that telling somebody that you are not doing good is first disconnect, and then it's very difficult to bring them back and say that you do this, because nobody wants to, and particularly in our culture, it's a face-saving culture. Nobody wants to be seen bad, so wherein some of the Western cultures are more direct, we are more softer in our approach. That's who we are. I think the reason for our success is that we focus on the pain points and the critical moments of health. And in a life of a pet, there are many critical moments of health where they become vulnerable. And we have a solutions for all those moments, whether it's a start of life, then, critical growth phase, some health issues, some sensitivities, uh, some treatment related stuff, old age. It's very, that moment the pet is vulnerable and the pet parent is in more listening mode. And, we spend most of our money, hook the customers to, or not hook is a wrong word, but to hook for education, and once they are educated, the product will sell automatically. So, that is.
I'll qualify my question a little further, sir. If you look at our marketing spends, in the past few years, right? Where are we spending money? We are spending more of our money on trade fairs, right? On channel incentives and things like that, right? Okay, we do more and more participate in dog shows and promotions like that, right? Or through various kind of, channel participants, be it veterinarians, point of sale promotion, be it the breeder shows and things like that. What percentage of our promotional spends are actually geared towards the direct customer and not the channel, not in what way the service provider or the intermediary or something like that, right? Because when we are primarily spending at the intermediary end, right, then we are to some degree also leaving it on the intermediary to further communicate our narrative, right? So is it that over the period of time, you have seen more of your spends getting diverted towards directly the customer and educating the customer, right? Helping them understand, what the, like more of D2C marketing aspect, right? That is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. So our spends have, kind of, from this extreme, it is more balanced now. It's omni-channel because we are looking for where the pet parents are. If pet parents are in Google or in a digital space, we cannot be not there. And it's the same pet parent who are moving from pet shops to veterinarians to omni-channel. Definitely our spends are more balanced in terms of, we follow that. And if they are getting a, consistent message, because, the point is that if they are getting a message which is different in a digital space, and if they go to a offline channel, maybe a pet shop or a veterinarian, they get a very different message there. It's conflicting. It will not resonate. And when they comes back, the conviction is not there. So it's not, I think, or it's and you have to have a balanced spend on both sides of, offline and online, both dimensions. And you have to have a consistent message on both sides. It's an integrated approach which we take. And you are right, maybe 15 years back it was tilted, maybe 99% money was spent here, but today it is, it's difficult to say a percentage because most of our, it's seamless. But I'll say that it's quite balanced now.
Varun, last question to you, before we open for Q&A.
Can I answer this? So I think Satinder mentioned it very well, right? When he was mentioning seamless, I would put it slightly differently. See, I do not think that is really an either or question. Primarily because as long as your messaging is consistent, I think it is very, very important that all the stakeholders who are communicating, see at the end of the day when I am speaking to a veterinary doctor or a breeder, or I am putting A-class content on Amazon, my intention is that message should reach, that education should reach the customer. So I think the real answer to this is that I obviously am not talking about, obviously you need to incentivize the channel, right? It is a business at the end of the day. But when you are, it cannot be only that. It cannot be only margins and schemes and no other conversation. Brands don't get built like that. If you are a brand with a consistent message, then it is very, very important that wherever you are talking across the channel, whichever channel, even if it is Blinkit or it is Amazon or whatever it is, the messaging needs to be same everywhere. You need to equip every channel with that messaging. And that is where even educating the channel is, at the end of the day, it is for you to reach the customer. So that is how I would kind of integrate it and say it is not either D2C or B2B. Whatever messaging, whatever education that I am spending to ensure that at the end the customer is touched with a uniform message consistently.
And the last question, over the past few years, we have seen the channel mix change, right? The channel mix initially was 80% of it pet shop and clinics and all that, right? Now we have started to see, online and quick commerce and coming, right? And, quick commerce, somebody who is expecting a 10-minute delivery would not spend 30 minutes to identify which product, right? So it is a quick right swipe or left swipe kind of a situation for all of us, right? So in that entire scenario, somehow the narrative is bound to get lost, right? But then at the same time, that is increasingly becoming an important, channel for us. How are you people, attending to this? And my question would be to you, Varun, that how you are attending to the evolving channel mix, where slowly there is, a shift from brick and mortar, right, towards the newer channel. Right? What are you doing to attend to that better?
I think this is quite a lived experience, like day to day. That is. See, I'm a mechanical engineer. I see channels when I visualize them. They are like conduits, right? They are like pipelines. If I speak in FMCG language, the focus is always on secondary, while primary is how we reach the customer, right? What are the pathways to reach that customer? I think it is super important that you are where the customer is. There is like, I wouldn't try to be politically correct here. If the customer is on Blinkit, you have to be on Blinkit, right? If the customer is on Amazon, I do not think that it is fair for you to try and change that, right? And same customer, right? Satinder might, on a weekday, might be using Blinkit. On a weekend, when he has time, he might go to a mall and say, "Here, I'll check 10 things out because I have time and."
The importance of
right?
omni-channel,
So,
experience centers.
so even the same customer, right? It has to be. He is present across the channel, and as a brand, you have the responsibility to be present across the channel. I think a very important point, which is once again, right? This is something that we miss out on is, at the same time, you have to be fair across the channels. You cannot have something which is either really or perceived unfair to, let's say, an online channel versus an offline channel. So I think this is something that every brand today, be it white goods or FMCG or our brand, everybody is struggling with. I think every organization is trying to find their own answers and their own narratives. I think that is super important, right? Our business was built on the backs of our physical retailers, right? And that is where the most of the loyalty is. It is not that we are not focused towards other channels, but then at the end of the day, we need to ensure that the fairness exists, not only like in reality, but also perceived by the channels that we are selling to. So I think that is something that is super important.
We also need to see that what is the role of a channel. Is that role only replenishment and or it's education and recommendation? And I think we need to give a fair weightage according to that. There is a price to value addition. And I think, for me, the replenishment has a lower value rather than education and recommendation has a higher value.
Perfect, perfect. I hope we were able to present a cohesive discussion to the audience. If there are any questions, we would like to take it up now.
Hi, I'm Dr. Makaran Chavan, Secretary of PPM and Federation. Hi. Just a quick question. I think as a whole, veterinarians are not convincing the pet parent for conversion from home food to pet food. So actually, we are only veterinarians and we are technical people. We have not done our MBA. So we need experts from you, some tricks or some pearls of wisdom. How do we do the conversion from home food to pet food?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. Thank you for asking this question, Dr. Makaran. I think, pet parents need to see the evidence. And, the most important people who can convince them is veterinarians. If you, kind of educate. And the evidence, as I said, that our strategy is to have a conversation at the critical moments, and you receive most of the pet parents at the critical moments. And at those critical moments, if you can add importance of nutrition to help manage that issue and then sustain a quality life, I think that is very critical. Second, I think overall, most of the pet parent doesn't know how a healthy, good pet looks like. Even if a 5 kg Labrador weighing 45 kg and limping, people feel that it's very healthy. And I think that's where, your conversation should not start and end with the particular, let's say, GI problem in that day. I think you can always talk about a healthy pet, that how a healthy pet looks like. And there is lot of information and knowledge which we keep on sharing in terms of tools and guidance. But I think if you start focusing on the critical moments and then get them out of that critical moment and sustain a healthy life through nutrition, I think this will really go very long.
I'll add a little to that, Makaran sir. We all are, in some ways, also into some sort of a general management role, right? So that's why, when let's say there is a pet industry dialogue, all kinds of participants are invited, I also feel somewhere, okay, that when there are veterinary meets, if there is, if you believe that there is lack of understanding, or there could be better understanding of how to do marketing better, or how the new emerging channels can be utilized better by veterinarians, maybe experts from those fields could be invited for such symposiums, and maybe that will help, right? And I'm sure the industry would be, more than happy to extend a, helping hand towards that. Right?
So, Dr. Mohan, I don't have a solution, but I have a perspective here, right? My experience is that in India specifically, a lot of veterinary doctors are very reluctant in recommending food, because in their mind, I don't see, it is obviously not a technical issue that they are not able to recommend, right? They understand it, but they somehow think that if I recommend this, the perception is, hey, I'm being commercial and selling, right? What I like to tell those esteemed veterinary doctors is, see, when you leave that space open, see, what you did was, somebody came to you for a recommendation. You said, yeah, I am not comfortable making that recommendation because I am a doctor, I don't want to be seen recommending food. What you essentially did is that you left the space open for his bua, his chachi, somebody who had a dog 20 years ago, to fill in that gap. And I don't think that is right. Because if there is anybody in the room and you can make the recommendation based on the technical expertise that you have, whatever belief system that you have. But not doing it is a problem. See, even if you really have a background where you're saying home food is better, I don't mind you making that recommendation, right? But then most of the veterinary doctor will not make the recommendation at all and say, what did the breeder tell you? You keep on feeding that. I think that is where the gap is coming from.
As you all see, we are good orators and we can keep this session going forever. But 15 minutes back, I got a chat saying that your time is up. So I would like to take any last question if there is. Oh my goodness, there are many. So I'll just take maybe one and let's take it from there.
Hi, my name is Samir. I'm coming from Pune. While you said regarding the education of the customer, and even gentleman doctor, he also mentioned that when he wants to give out a solution, there are two things that a customer, either my dog is not well, and that's the time the doctor is giving a recommendation, so may or may not be there fully. But like we have a app, health app, कि आज मैंने 1000 steps किए कि नहीं किए, वो एक pop-up आता है phone पे. Have you had your X amount of muesli today morning or not? Is there something that we can think of? I'm just thinking aloud. That the guy has it on his phone, that has he walked his dog so much? Because आज whatever said and done, love is either, there are two extremes of pet parents, at least that's what I've seen. One is यार दे दिया खाना, Another is इतना खाना दे रहा है कि at 45 kg of a lab, he's still a babu shona. So they're extreme. There is no standardization. So is there something that can be worked around to give that pop-up? Have you done this for your dog today? Because when they go to the pet shop, they have only that much concentration span or attention span. But there's nothing that is hitting them every day. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, so there have been many. I can myself think of maybe 3-4 people who attempted that. There was one app called Pet Perfect. There was one called Wagger AI, right? But the core thing then remains is how do you ensure adoption of that app, and the customer acquisition cost, and hence the marketing budget and everything, comes into picture. Rakesh, you can.
So, hi Samir. So, in the past, let's say, for example, when we were distributing Hills, and even today, one of the initiatives that we ensure we take up is, let's say, veterinary consultation services, where, let's say, along with our products, whenever they buy our products, if any pet parent has any query, they can call our customer care center. The call gets, if it's a technical query, the call gets directed to our in-house veterinary doctor. And whether it's a customer from the trade or a consumer, that person can ask the technical question, and get a qualified response from a veterinary doctor with respect to that query that they have. So I think this is one way that as pet food members we can address this issue. Also, if I can take the liberty to shortly give a response to Dr. Makaran's question also, I think that the statement that you made, sir, tells us how much of an opportunity we as pet food industry members have to work on what Linda ma'am said in the beginning of her speech. She said collaboration is the key to untapping the potential of the pet industry. And when industry and vets collaborate together to create this importance and passion for pet nutrition, it will really change the game, because I think we need to work closer with not only practicing vets, but also the universities and colleges to also introduce courses exclusively for pet nutrition. Today, in amongst all the veterinary universities, also you will see there are, I think, just a couple of them who have pilot pet production plants and dedicated interns towards pet nutrition specialization. I think we can work closely with all the universities to introduce specific courses for pet nutrition, create this interest amongst vets at their academic level, rather than catching them at this thing. So I think that, and that is where also there is an implication on your previous question on how much we spend on D2C. The opportunity on the channel itself is so much immense that we need to balance accordingly. Thank you.
Yeah, hold on. Just a second. So thank you so much to our panelists for a wonderful discussion and clearly an engaging one. So I request Ms. Linda Hogg to felicitate our speakers. So Mr. Ipshit Bhattacharya. Mr. Satinder Singh. Mr. Varun Sharma. We would like to extend our gratitude to Mr. Rakesh Mohan for filling in such a short notice. Thank you for adding valuable insight into the conversation. Thank you so much. You'll get your memento shortly. So thank you so much, speakers. Thank you, everyone.